Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, could be leaving AEW. That is what many wrestling fans are talking about, as Britt Baker has not been seen on AEW TV for nearly 8 months. Baker has been with the company ever since its inception back in 2019, and for most of that time has played a pivotal role in the AEW women's division. Slowly but surely, over the first few years of the company, she established herself as the key face, the star amongst the entire women's roster, and that is why her coronation in 2021 as the AEW Women's World Champion meant so much. It wasn't just the fact that AEW were able to build up this new star and finally achieve something that people had said for a while there that they couldn't do, and that is build a female superstar up from scratch. But on top of that, they were able to legitimately position her as the face of the brand. If you watched AEW, if you saw a poster promoting an AEW show in 2021, odds are that Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody Rhodes, and Britt Baker's faces were all over the promotional. That is what she meant to the company then, and that largely continued into 2022. However, we then saw a significant drop-off as soon as Jamie Hayter entered the picture. Jamie Hayter is someone who Britt Baker, in the storyline at least, was very close with, someone who had been built up to be a top star in the AEW women's division. And as her star began to rise, you saw Britt Baker kind of take a back seat. She was coming out with Jamie Hayter. She was doing everything that you would expect a manager to do, and we kind of got away from Britt Baker wrestling. That didn't mean that she took a complete backseat. She was still involved in feuds and still wrestled throughout most of 2023 until an undisclosed injury took her out, and we have since learned that the undisclosed injury was actually an ailment and something that was genuinely life-threatening. And that is why when she made her return at Forbidden Door 2024, it meant so much, because people in their minds thought, okay, this is a reset of the Britt Baker character. You have a chance here to take one of the biggest stars that the company has ever had, bring her back, and also reintroduce her to people who may not have been familiar with her. And they were on the precipice of doing it with this great feud with Mercedes Moné. And if you were to ask me in 2021 or 2022 what a dream match would be for AEW versus WWE, Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker would be towards the top of the list. This is a match that just a couple of years before, no one would ever have thought could be possible. This was a matchup that people had been building up in their minds for years. This was a matchup that once it was very clear this was the direction for All In 2024, everyone wanted to see. And then unfortunately, we all had to watch that match. And I don't think that's an indictment on either women and their ability. The unfortunate truth is that match was nowhere close to living up to the hype. And over the next couple of weeks, Baker would make sporadic appearances, but very disconnected from TV, very disconnected from the storylines, and it just felt like she was in at least a storyline in creative sense on the way out. And now for the past couple of months, she has been nowhere to be seen. We don't know what Britt Baker is up to. We don't know what's going on with that situation. And that has led to speculation about her contract and potentially her ending up in WWE. And as we've seen, there have been several prominent women superstars make the jump from AEW to WWE. Jade Cargill, Stephanie Vaquer, and most recently, the now Blake Monroe, formerly known as Mariah May. So there is a precedent to this happening, but you also have to factor in the reality that Baker's contract likely extends well past 2025, and unless something dramatic like a release or something happens, she is going to remain with All Elite Wrestling. So That just leaves the speculation. And I honestly think that Britt Baker in WWE would work for a variety of reasons. No slouch when it comes to understanding talent. And it is a no-brainer if you're looking at what Britt Baker offers strictly from an aura and promo standpoint, that she can go with the best of them in WWE. You add on top of that, she's very good in the ring, especially in key matches. I think that there's a lot that WWE can do. And there's even the potential to bring back some feuds that Britt Baker had in AEW. You could run back Jade Cargill and Britt Baker. You could have the potential to do something between Jade Cargill and Stephanie Vaquer, whose paths kind of technically crossed the forbidden door, as Stephanie, after her loss to Mercedes, was interrupted by Britt Baker. And then you could also maybe, just maybe, have a confrontation between Blake Monroe and Britt Baker. But it goes beyond just the AEW fantasy matchups. There's legitimate dream matches for Britt Baker to have with main roster talent in WWE. Britt Baker versus Bianca Belair. Britt Baker versus Naomi on the mic would be insane. And of course, Britt Baker versus the likes of Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Bayley. The list goes on and on and on. And while many people believe that this could be a pipe dream, I think that there is a real chance that this could happen. Wrestling in 2025 is as explosive and unpredictable as it's ever been. We are seeing moves happen in a lightning pace. We are seeing talent jump at a rate that we haven't seen since the Attitude Era. And we are seeing that wrestlers have more of a choice in where they go. They know that if things don't work out in one company, they have the potential to go and test the market and also test the creative aspirations for them in other companies. And right now, it does not look like Britt Baker is a priority for AEW. It doesn't look like Britt Baker is something that AEW wants to invest TV time in. And if you're Britt Baker and that is the unfortunate reality that you are dealt with, then there is simply only one option. When your contract is up, or if you were to hypothetically ask for a release, you go to WWE. That is simply what is on the table. And as far as whether or not she'll do it, that is TBD. But I know that if she does, and if she does go, it would be a big splash for the DMD.